Get your highlighters ready. Cornelius Fichtner from PMPrepcast.com here, and we are about to color outside the lines of the CAPM exam content outline. Yes, hello everybody. I'm Cornelius Fichtner. Thank you so much for joining me. And we are going to be taking a look in this session here at what I consider to be the most important document when it comes to the CAPM exam, and that is the exam content outline. And the problem is most people don't even know that it exists, even though it is that important. Let's take a look at our agenda here, what we're going to be doing. We'll start with a little bit of history and development in regards to the exam content outline. Then we're going to talk about the PMBOK guide and how it is not the CAPM exam. I want to then dive into the ECO, talk about the domains, the tasks, the enablers. I have a sample question for you. And then I want to show you a couple of alternate uses of the ECO. In particular, how can I use the ECO for my CAPM exam prep? There's a very simple and easy trick to do that. A couple of take actions and takeaways at the end. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And if you have any questions and you're joining me live, please do use the chat box on your end and just ask the question about the ECO. I'll be happy to answer your question here live on the air. So our first topic is the answer to the question, what is the CAPM exam content outline and why on earth should I care? Well, the ECO defines the syllabus of the CAPM exam by describing domains, tasks, and enablers. And we are going to jump into those in just a minute. But in other words, the ECO really is your guide to the CAPM exam. If it isn't in the ECO, it won't be on the CAPM exam. That's as simple as that. Basically, it's the rules of the game. If you read that, you know what the CAPM exam is all about and what you'll be tested on. It's like starting to play chess without knowing how the game works. All right, yeah. And one thing that I also want to state quite clearly is this here. The CAPM exam is no longer a test of the PMBOK guide. This only changed recently in 2023. So if you are reading any articles, if you're watching any videos that make reference to the PMBOK guide for the CAPM exam, and the CAPM tests your knowledge of the PMBOK guide, incorrect. That is no longer the case. You're looking at an outdated video. You're reading an outdated article because the questions on the CAPM are now based on the domains in the exam content outline. Let's talk a little bit history here to show you the progression of this. The first exam content outline for the CAPM exam was published in 2013, and in this exam content outline, PMI stated you will be tested on the 11 chapters found in the PMBOK Guide 5th edition. In 2018, PMI released an updated version saying, on the CAPM exam, you will be tested on the 13 chapters from the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. And this is why many of the old articles and old videos talk about that and say you'll be tested on the PMBOK Guide. But in 2023, the new and updated CAPM exam content outline was published, and in here, PMI has defined 4 domains that talk about the fundamentals of project management. So you're no longer tested on the PMBOK guide, you're tested on the fundamentals of project management. Here is how PMI made that update from 2018 to 2023. It all started with PMI doing extensive market research and then conducted what they call a global practice analysis, GPA. Basically, the GPA looks at what a CAPM actually does, and based on that, they identified a number of new trends in the profession that were missing from the old CAPM exam. These trends were then used as inputs to what they call a job task analysis, JTA, in order to ensure the validity and relevance of a reworked exam content outline. And that reworked ECO then led to the new and updated CAPM examination. As you can see, a rather structured and quite scientific process and an approach, all of which ensures that the CAPM exam tests you about the work that you actually do on a project as an associate on that project. Here is the structure of this updated ECO and the updated CAPM exam. It looks like this from the left to the right. It begins with 4 domains. We'll take a look at those later on. A domain that's sort of the high-level knowledge area that is essential to the practice of project management. Then within the domains, you have tasks, anywhere from, I think, 3 to 6 tasks per domain. And these are sort of the responsibilities that you have within the domain. And then the enablers there, kind of sort of illustrative examples. This is what you do as part of that task, pretty much. This description from PMI, it doesn't really explain everything in detail. So I want to drill down into the details here. Got a comment coming up here from a LinkedIn user. Let's see. Hi, I've been working through your Prepcast CAPM lessons. Thank you. Is there a version of the CAPM lesson that aligns the ECO domains with the modules lessons that you provide? No, we haven't done that. So because the ECO is domain, task, and enabler based, and our exam prep course is more focused on introducing you to the fundamentals of project management. There is no direct correlation between A and B. However, I have a huge spreadsheet where I have all the tasks, all the enablers, all the lessons, and I'm making sure that we are covered. However, that huge spreadsheet is not made available to the students. So most courses actually do it that way. Even if you take the PMI course for the CAPM exam, it is an introduction to project management that covers all the topics, right? Well, we'll talk about the coverage of the topics later on. So let's take a look at these 4 domains here. So these are the 4 domains defined in the ECO. The first domain is project management fundamentals and core concepts. Here, this domain has 5 tasks, and 36% of the questions on the exam will come from that domain. So you have 150 questions on the exam. 36% of that is 40, so about a little less, between 50 and 60. Did I get that right? something along those lines, right? Yeah. Then the second and the third domain, the second one is predictive plan-based methodologies, and the third one is agile methodologies. So you need to know about waterfall, 3 tasks, 17%, and you need to know about agile, 5 tasks, 20%. And in a twist that surprised pretty much everybody, business analysis was also added to the CAPM, 6 tasks with 27%. And remember, PMI did do their due diligence, right? All this job task analysis and research that showed business analysis is something that people do as a CAPM on a project that needs to go onto the exam. So they're testing you on something that you are expected to do as a CAPM on the exam. In addition to describing these domains, here is what else you can find in the ECO. It includes this important exam administration information, cost, eligibility requirements, how to retake the exam if you don't pass it at first, right? And you can find this in the back starting on page 11, and everything before page 11. That's the domains, tasks, and enablers. PMI also uses the exam content outline to develop their CAPM questions. So the way that it works is that PMI has an army of volunteers around the world who develop questions for their exams. And what they do is these volunteers, they start out with the exam content outline. So they pick a domain, they pick a task, and they say, I want to create an exam sample question based on that. So develop that question right there and then. Then once they are done with the development of that question, they put that question through quality assurance, and if it passes all the quality assurance processes, it goes and is added to the exam. In addition to that, they also have to make sure that the question uses, I think it's 2 reference books from PMI. So each question must reference 2 books saying this is why A is correct and not why B is correct. And you can see that this process means ECO tasks, ECO enablers, ECO domains become questions on the exam through this process here. And by the way, this is exactly the process that we use as well on our exam simulator. A question here from Harish Kumar. Do we have a practice test on the PMI website for CAPM? And what is the eligibility criteria, application process, etc.? So that's a 2-part question, Harish. The PMI website currently does not have a CAPM sample exam. I will tell you about my simulator in just a moment. And regarding the eligibility criteria and the application process, please go to pmprepcast.com/CAPM guide. I will show you the link at the end of this lesson here. And look at my video, what is the CAPM exam? In that, I go through all of that eligibility criteria and everything else that you may want to know about the exam. Okay, so this is how PMI makes sure that the exam content outline leads to questions on the exam. Here is a sample task and its enablers. This here is task 2 from domain 2. That is the second domain. Remember, it's predictive and plan-based methodologies. And this task reads, demonstrate an understanding of a project management plan and schedule. And underneath that task, PMI says, and this here are the enablers. Apply critical path methods all the way to apply an integration management plan. I think there are actually 2 more. They just didn't fit on the slide here. So why are they called enablers? Well, let's take a look at the first one there. Apply critical path methods. If you can apply the critical path method, that enables you to demonstrate this understanding of a project schedule. Or the last one on the slide, if you can apply an integration management plan, that enables you to demonstrate an understanding of a project management plan. So everything below the sub-bullets, they enable you to do the main bullet. Let me show this to you in a sample exam question. Here we go. And if you are currently live with me here on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it may be, please think about this, because I want you to give me the answer, what you think is correct. So here we go. A project manager meets with company executives to apprise them of value gain progress on the project. To make it easier for the executives to understand the various earned value metrics without complex formulas and calculations, the project manager draws a chart, the one that we see here below, as shown below. The date of the meeting is indicated by today on the x-axis. So this here is today, okay? What is the schedule variance SV of the project? So is the schedule variance here A? Is the schedule variance this here B? Is it this here C? Or is it this big area right here? Is it D? All right, I'm going to give you about 20 to 30 seconds here because there's a bit of a delay when you type this into YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn. So go ahead. Let me know what you think. Is it A, B, C, or D? All right, I'm going to give you 5 more seconds here. And I have a few questions or a few answers here coming in. We have Becky who said C. We have Brian who said A. We have Harish, I'm sorry if I mispronounce it there, who said A. Let's take a look. We have Carla who's also who's come in with C as well. Okay, so the correct answer is, here we go, it is A. A is the correct answer because that area there, that represents the difference between the earned value, EV, that is the orange line that we have there, as well as the planned value, PV, that is the dashed value. So that is the difference between those two right there. And now you might be thinking, especially Becky here, who said C, Carla, who said C right there. You might be thinking, wait a second, that is an unfair question, right? I have never heard of what this is. What on earth is CV, EV, PV? I've never seen this. This is such an obscure topic. We never use that on our projects. This is something theoretical. Why on earth do I have to know this, right? It is so obscure. Well, in fact, it isn't, because if we now open up the exam content outline and we look at task 2, the one that we just looked at a little earlier, right? Demonstrate an understanding of a project management plan and schedule, right? And one of the enablers underneath that is calculate the schedule variance. So PMI has clearly told you in the exam content outline, as part of the CAPM exam, you must be able to calculate the schedule variance. So the question that I have just shown you here, even though you may think, oh, this is obscure, this is a topic that nobody ever uses, never seen anything like that, this is a perfectly fair question because the CAPM exam content outline specifies you have to know how to do this for the exam. All right? Yeah, and of course, the best way to make sure that you are ready to pass the CAPM exam is to use a simulator. And this takes us back to the question that Harish had earlier on. Do we have a practice exam or test on the PMI website? No, we don't. But if you go to this link here, pmexamsimulator.com/CAPM, you will find my CAPM exam simulator with 600 questions, covers everything that PMI talks about in the exam content outline, and it also gets dozens of 5-star reviews at the time. You can also sign up for the free version by going to this link here. Right, so at this point, you understand what the ECO is. You know how it was developed. You know that it is used as the basis, the fundament of the CAPM exam. And here's the good news. You can now use it to kind of reverse engineer the CAPM exam for you. Let me show you what it can do. There are especially two items that it can help you with. The first one, wrong way, sorry. The first one is an obvious one. The first one is an obvious one because we already talked about this. The ECO tells you what topics could I be asking about, could I be asked about on the exam. That's the number one thing that the ECO does. When you look through this, you know exactly what you will be asked about on the exam. Now you can use that to also take this one step further and say, well, where do I need additional training? Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to print the exam content outline. Then I want you to take out your highlighter here, and on the printer, well, I only have the green one, so you also need a yellow one and you also need a red one, okay? And I want you to use your highlighter to do this here, right? Review and highlight all the ECO tasks. Use your green highlighter to highlight everything where you say, you know what? I'm good. I have had training on this. I understand this topic. I do not need to look into this any further. I understand that. Yellow would be, heard about it, kind of think I know what I do here. Might be worth looking into one more time. And then obviously red would be, what on earth is this? Example here is the schedule variance that we looked at in the example, the question earlier on. If you got that wrong, yeah, I don't know what the schedule variance is. I really need to look into that, okay? And in this way, you now know where you're good, where you're sort of okay, but might want to look into, and where you need additional training. And if you are looking for that additional training, if you are looking for a full-featured CAPM exam prep course that gives you the 23 hours of training and is specifically designed to help you with the content on the CAPM exam, then try this here. pm-prepcast.com/CAPM. This is my CAPM exam prep course specifically designed to help you prepare for and pass your CAPM exam. Yeah, and with that, we have already reached pretty much the end of this lesson of the ECO overview. Two more things to look at, take action here, and then the takeaways on the next slide. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to download the exam content outline, and I want you to read absolutely everything from cover to cover. Like I said in the opening, in my opinion, the exam content outline is the most important document for the CAPM exam, yet nobody knows about it, nobody talks about it. It gives you everything you need to understand what the exam is all about. So you want to print it, you want to read it, and take out your highlighters. Use green, yellow, red to mark and you know, be honest with yourself and ask yourself, do I know enough about this topic? Do I think what I know will help me pass the exam? And in order to download it, simply go to pm-prepcast.com/CAPM outline/CAPM outline. This is just a forwarding link. PMI keeps changing where they keep those documents. So I have this link here. If you go to this link, it will immediately forward you to the document and it'll start downloading for you. Okay. And then, wait, I've got a question here. So we should not read the PMBOK 7? Is there any benefit to reading through it to supplement understanding? Now, let's make it absolutely clear, right? That CAPM is no longer a test of only the PMBOK guide. It used to be. First, it was a test, only PMBOK 5. Then it was a test, only PMBOK 6. Now it is a test, the fundamentals of project management. The PMBOK guide is one of those fundamentals of project management. The Agile Practice Guide is one of those fundamentals of project management. And the PMI Standard for Business Analysis, I think it is called, don't quote me on that, that is one of those fundamentals of project management, well, business analysis, that you need to know for the CAPM exam. So the CAPM exam is no longer a test only of the PMBOK guide. The PMBOK guide, 7th edition, is now part of a much greater volume, shall we say, of materials that you need to learn and understand. Okay? There we are. That was it for the take action. And then finally, takeaways right here. The PMBOK guide is not the CAPM exam, like I have just explained. All right. And then Harish is just asking, so is it PMBOK 6 or PMBOK 7? Very good question, Harish. If you read both PMBOK 6 and PMBOK 7, you're not doing anything wrong. Okay. What I would recommend for the CAPM exam, definitely read PMBOK Guide 7 and also read the Process Groups Practice Guide, I think it's called. It has this really weird name, okay? This is a smaller version, very, very bad way of phrasing it. The practice guide and the process groups practice guide is a smaller version, very bad way of saying it, of the PMBOK guide 6th edition. If you read that process guide, practice guide, a very funky name, very hard to remember, then you will be okay. But if you read the full PMBOK guide 6th edition, you're not doing anything wrong, okay? It will still help you and prepare you for the CAPM exam. So back to our final slide here on the takeaways. The PMBOK guide is not the CAPM exam. Instead, the exam content outline describes the exam syllabus. You want to print it, read it, you want to understand it, and you can use it to ensure that your training is complete and that you know all the CAPM admin. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining me here today, and thank you everybody for who's joining me live here for all those great questions, challenging questions. Appreciate it. That the biggest, the most difficult question to answer is which PMBOK guide should I read? Even PMI is not 100% clear when you ask them about it. So that is always a challenging question. Thank you everybody for joining me here today. Much appreciated, and until next time. But before you go, this lesson is part of a series in which I guide you to be better prepared for your CAPM exam. To view the complete playlist of these CAPM guide lessons, please do visit pm-prepcast.com/CAPM guide to watch all of them.